What is good, Tesla family? It's Ray J back with another video. And this one, I'm going to break down what's going on with Tesla, SPY, Nvda, the QQQ, and a couple of tickers out there. I'm going to make a very quick video and talk about Tesla stock and some very important levels and what I predict to happen for tomorrow as we have another interesting day. But before I break anything down all this information, before I get into any more details, let me just mention a couple of things. I'm personally not a financial planner, so take none of this as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Webull link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Webull, the link down below, and deposit any amount of money into the account, you are guaranteed up to 12 free stocks. The offer ends very soon. It ends in just about 10 days, so check it out before they run out. Anyways, let's break down how the market is looking. So for tomorrow, we have some data coming out. The market's going to open at the normal time. And remember, the market is closed today because it's Labor Day. So I'm hoping everyone is having a very, very happy and very pleasant Labor Day weekend. I hope you guys are having fun, but the market will open for tomorrow. And then at about 10 o'clock a.m. Eastern Time, or 30 minutes after the market opens, we have the economic optimism report coming out. This is going to cause some volatility in the markets. I'm going to talk about how this could affect Tesla in just a couple of minutes. Just as a reminder, though, there's some news coming out this morning about how Mercedes and BMW are launching more and more of these EVs, and Tesla is once again just like falling behind. Here's the problem with this, okay? It doesn't matter if Mercedes has these new concepts. It doesn't matter if BMW has these new EVs. Why do you have to bring Tesla into this? It really shows the bias in these reports. They're saying that they're catching up to Tesla. Tesla is just not really as great as what their models are telling us. I mean, the list goes on, guys. I just think it's pretty ridiculous. And with all this news coming out, the sentiment in the news is starting to shift against Tesla. Do you guys notice that the news has been getting worse and worse ever since the Highland ended up coming out and we had the new news about the price cuts? The question about the price cuts, which came out for Tesla, is will they continue with more price cuts? And if they do continue to do so, how on earth is this going to affect their margins and their earnings? And that's what's concerning lots of investors. That's why we had some news that Guggenheim is coming out and giving Tesla a sell rating. They're another well-known analyst. And if they keep this up, if they keep saying you should sell Tesla, get out of Tesla, that is some negative news. The price-price ratio is starting to curl as Tesla's losing some relative strength. Tuesdays tend to be green about, what is this, like 51% of the time. So it's kind of like a coin flip, nothing too crazy. And we tend to see more volatility for Tesla during about the fourth hour or at about like 12 o'clock p.m. Eastern time, and also around 2 o'clock p.m. Eastern time. We tend to see the highest amounts of volatility for Tesla. And don't forget that September tend to be a weak month for Tesla. It's only green about 43% of the time historically during the month of September. October's also tend to not be that great, but this could change because this data is a little bit skewed because of what happened last year with the inflationary data. So I'm not too concerned about October. But November is when we tend to do very, very well throughout the markets. So I still believe the market has potential. Now, going back, we saw more shorting going on with Tesla, about 41 million Tesla shares being shorted. The shorts have piled in, and they're once again starting to attack even harder. Tesla got 132 million in volume, well above its average, which is a decent sign so far. But despite that, the question is, how on earth was Tesla going to move, in my opinion? And I believe that, like I said over the weekend, Apple is going to play a big role in dictating it. So looking at the price of Tesla, if you zoom out on the 5-minute time frame, we did establish this bullish divergence and we didn't really get much of a bounce thanks to it. So there's a chance Tesla's going to make an attempt to retest like 250, and we'll see if that could break or not. But ultimately, when you zoom out of the charts, if you look at the 4-hour time frame, it's looking quite bearish right now, and it does not look like Tesla has truly bounced. Now, I know it's not what a lot of people want to hear, but let me clarify one more thing for everyone out there. Am I a bull or am I a bear? And here's my answer. When you look at SPY, and I think that this is going to dictate Tesla, the monthly chart still looks bullish. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, we're forming a giant cup and handle. All right. Why is this bullish? Because we may get a pullback for September. Yes, the market could pull back, guys. The market could drop another 5% or so. It's a possibility. Why? Because of this bad news, because of the inflationary data, possibly, and all these different factors. But this chart is still suggesting that even if we get some kind of pullback for September, going into like the second half of October, November, and December, they're going to be bullish months for the markets, and the market could be just getting a very healthy pullback after the amount of pushing we did before the market gets another monstrous rally to the upside and the bulls take over to end the year strong. Okay, so overall, I am talking about some pullbacks in the markets that are a possibility. but I am not saying the market's crashing. I'm not a perma bear. I'm not anything like that. And I think Tesla's going to follow this trend. I think that Tesla could pull back a bit. Sure. We could see it, come down, completely normal. There's nothing wrong with that. However, to end this year, as we approach November especially, Tesla may have some very bullish price action nonetheless. So could we see some downside for the short term? Yes. Yes, there could be downside. For the medium term, I'm still bullish as we are historically very strong. We have the Cybertruck coming out and we have some very important fib levels, which I will talk about in another video, but I want to make that as clear as possible. So what do I see in the chart for Tesla? What do I think is going to happen? There are two main possibilities I'm eyeing right now. I have it drawn out right here. There's likely going to be more downside. The bullish divergence in the 5-minute time frame means there's going to be an attempt to bounce. We could see 250 being retested or so, but I don't think that's going to last for Tesla because of this imbalance right here at 237. I think that Tesla's ultimately going to come down to 237 over the next few days. Could bounce first temporarily and then eventually start selling off as time goes on for the next couple of days. Or it might end up just selling off, get a very, very small bounce and just start selling off immediately. Either way, I do see it coming down to 235 to 237. It could bounce a little bit first, but I do see some downside potentially coming over the next couple of days. There's also a potential distributive head and shoulders like pattern that's developing on it. And I think that with this developing, I think the market could play a role with Apple potentially cooling off. Now, why am I talking about Apple? Because Apple is at a very, very historical high on the RSI. When you zoom out of the charts, when the RSI is ever above like 80 or touches 80, we tend to see Apple cool off. That's what tends to happen. So there's a chance Apple may get a very, very healthy little retracement. But before that happens, we could see one last pop in Apple. So Apple might try to push to fill its gap on the daily chart. This unfilled gap around this 190 area could get filled first before this thing starts to switch. Now, keep in mind there's a doji on the daily, so it could start to switch immediately, but my gut tells me we'll get one last pop in Apple, like 190 or so could be tested. Then this thing may start to retrace a bit to about the 185 area. I think that's what's very probable, and I think that that's going to be completely healthy of a retracement, and then it could bounce once again and start pushing. So that's where I'm leaning towards on Apple. A little pop, then a drop. So that makes me think that Tesla may try to retest like 250, maybe get one last little pop, and then start dropping as time goes on. Because on the 30 minutes time frame, you will notice that it formed another bullish divergence. Could come back up to this imbalance. We have an imbalance at 252. We also have the 200 EMA acting as resistance. So watch 247.97 as resistance, and then 250 as resistance for Tesla, then 252.5. May push up very close to 250, reject off that, then start cooling off. And we could see more downside nonetheless, as the bigger trend is still looking more bearish on the 4-hour time frame. All right, so a little pop on Tesla is possible, a retest of 250, a rejection, then another drop towards this imbalance at 237. I hope that's as clear as possible. That's what I'm saying for Tesla. A little pop, then a drop is still on the table. Now, for the short term, could Tesla drop even lower than that, below 237 to 235? Yes, it could, but we have to watch and see how it reacts to this support first. If that breaks, we could see 230, 227, 222, the list goes on, but I'm going to talk more about those lower levels a little bit later. For now, we're going to be watching our trends and seeing how Tesla ends up moving at these levels. But let me just remind you all that even if we do get this downside on Tesla for the short term, I'm still bullish for the month of November for Tesla. I think Tesla's going to make its way back up. Anyways, that's what I'm seeing for Tesla. Hope this is as clear as possible. Look for a little pop, then a drop for tomorrow/Wednesday. That is going to be very important. Apple may dictate the flow of the entire market. Apple may get a little pop and then eventually start to cool off. That's going to be completely normal. I'm going to be watching 186.5 to be retested, maybe even 185. This would be completely healthy as Apple's continuing to push. It is showing some signs of exhaustion, but it's not necessarily ready yet. And eventually, I do believe it's on the table for some sort of pullback. But anyways, that's what I'm seeing for Apple. Apple may pop a little bit, then start cooling all the way back to the mid 180s over the next couple of trading days. I find that very probable. That's going to dictate SPY. SPY could get one last pop to about 454 if that ends up happening, if not 456, which is looking less likely. We have a bearish cross on the PPO, so the trend is starting to look bearish. There's also a chance the top is already in with the bearish divergence. So I don't know if it's going to go up to 454, but there is going to be an attempt to pop. So maybe 452, if not 454, could be retested. Then a rejection of these resistance levels for us to start dropping to 449.5, then 448 below that. My guts tells me there may be one last pop, either to 452 to 454, excuse me, and then we reject and start sinking all the way back down to 448, and then we start a downtrend, just a very temporary downtrend for the time being. And I think that's very likely. I think there could be more downside coming nonetheless. So a little pop, then drop on SPY. Same with the QQQ, but the QQQ is looking more bearish than SPY. It's looking weaker. Could get a retest of like 180, I'm sorry, 380, maybe even 382 to fill the gap, but I'm not really counting on that. So 380 could be retested, a rejection, then a drop all the way back down to 375. That is on the table. And if it breaks below that, 372.5 could be retested. Nvidia may retest 490, then reject and start coming all the way back down to 475. It's looking more bearish on the PPO. Now, the thing about Nvidia is when you zoom out of this chart, we have a very nice looking structure that has been once again favoring the bulls. You can see it's very close to its support, but it's starting to lag a little bit. And with this potential accumulation phase, could this be like a much larger like cup and handle? I'm not really counting on that for now. We just have to see where it bases first before making a claim like this, because we have this imbalance all the way down at like 466. If it breaks below 470, I'm seeing 466 most likely, and there could be more downside anyways. So on Nvidia, watch for a little pop in a retest of 490, a rejection, and for this thing to start dropping towards 475 most likely. There's also a potential head and shoulders right here that developed on the 4-hour time frame, which could be signifying more downside as well. So it's looking more bearish to me. I think it's eventually going to start dropping. Look for a little pop and a drop on Nvidia. The market's going to likely follow that trend. Now for the dollar looks to me like it could come down just a little bit more and retest this low right here at this like 103.9 to 104 area as the market tries to bounce, but then the dollar might get another bounce off that and start pushing. It has a nice inverse head and shoulders accumulation. It could also be forming a cup and handle. So if the dollar is forming this cup and handle, once this thing starts pushing and starts breaking above 104.45, excuse me, then the dollar might start to drag the market down. There's a real possibility and a risk of that. The VIX looks like it could drop a little bit more, but it's approaching this critical support at 12.73 to 13, right? We're currently at 13.09. We're approaching support on the VIX. If the VIX hits this support, it may try to bounce. If the VIX bounces, it's going to be because of the market cooling off. So the VIX tells us the market may pop a bit and then start dropping. So does the dollar. And I think that's very probable for the time being. If I want to talk about just a few others, Meta could retest 300 and reject and start, cooling off, make its way back down to these lower levels. We could retest this breakout zone around this 290 area. So maybe a 300 retest and a drop towards 290. That's very possible. Amazon could retest 140, reject off 139, reject off that, and then come all the way back down to about 136.5. That could be the 20 EMA test. And I think we have this imbalance down here around 135. So that's going to be the next level. If 136.5 breaks, look for a little pop, then a drop on Amazon. Same thing with Google. Google may retest 137.5, reject off that, then start cooling off. If it breaks below the 200 EMA, expect this thing to start sinking all the way down to 134.5 to 135. It is looking more bearish on the 4-hour time frame, so look for a pop then a drop. That seems more probable as well. So I hope this video is as clear as possible. I think that Tesla has more downside coming. It looks a little bit weak. I don't think it's done dropping just yet. There's likely going to be more downside. Look for a little pop first, then a drop. And then once it settles around 235 to 237, we're going to be watching to see how it holds above that. There could be a pop coming first before it comes down to that level. So watch for that pop first. And then don't forget about the volatility that's going to be coming 30 minutes after the market opens. So be careful when the volatility comes. We will see which way it moves the market. So be ready for that. And with that said, thank you all so much for listening. Enjoy the Labor Day weekend. Do what you guys have to do. I thank you all so much. And I'll see you guys in the next one tomorrow. Thank you and peace out.